Welcome to Visionaries, where we explore stories, strategies, and insights from the world's most inspiring entrepreneurs, brands, and creators. We're on a mission to help visionaries like you stand out and monetize their knowledge, influence, and message online, exploring topics like business, marketing, creativity, and personal development. Let's build your vision for a happier, more meaningful life, business, and community together. Keri Murphy is the CEO and founder of Inspired Living, a multi-seven-figure online business committed to empowering people all over the world to dream it, live it, and be it. Keri is an international speaker, video marketing expert, and business mentor, honing her experience in the entrepreneurial field for more than 22 years and on camera for over 3 decades. Her company specializes in teaching entrepreneurs how to stand out online and become an industry leader in their space. A veteran of television and appearances across MTV, E!, Fox, NBC, just to name a few. She brings her hard-worn entrepreneur knowledge and on-camera experience to her clients through public speaking, coaching programs, and her Inspired Living TV web series and podcast, among many other outlets. So as you join us for this episode today, where we break down what it looks like to build an inspired business, make sure to share it on the socials. Let us know that you're listening by tagging us, both Inspired Living TV and Dallin, Nead, and Content Supply across the socials. Okay, so now let's get into the visionary interview with Keri Murphy. Keri, it's so good to have you on the show.
I am so happy to be here. I love what you're doing and really grateful to have an opportunity to share.
Yeah, definitely. Well, for those who are like Inspired Living, Keri, what is she up to? Who is she? Give us a quick rundown.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I am a serial entrepreneur. I started my first business in my early 20s. It was interior design. I love creating beautiful things, but I also love really helping people see what they're capable of. So my background in video and on camera started around the age of 11. I grew up in the 80s, so I really wanted to be a supermodel or Mary Hart. Like those were the two options. And I begged my mom for years to put me in some modeling and acting classes. And she put me in at the most awkward time possible, like adolescence, 11. But I will say it gave me some confidence that was needed at the time. And honestly, now Inspired Living came to be after losing my talent agency in 2008 when that recession hit and really trying to figure out who Keri was going to be when she grew up. I have always been the girl who helps other people see what's possible for them. Like I remember as a little girl, I would find the quietest guy in the room and befriend him and try to give him confidence and get themselves out that. So I really love helping people see like what their message can do, what they can do. Really discovering talent is my gift. And I do that through Inspired Living. And it's a multi-seven-figure business that teaches entrepreneurs around the world how to clarify their message, how to get over their fear of showing up and being visible, and really make the impact that they feel called to make on the planet. Like I don't work with people that just want to sell widgets. Like we work with people that are really visionaries that carry a message that they're very passionate about sharing, that want to make the world a better place, hence Inspired Living. And we give them the conduit to do it, right? We give them the platform, the confidence, and the conversion strategy behind video.
I love it. And that's why I feel like you're definitely speaking my language, that I was like, reach out to Keri. I love what she's doing at Inspired Living, because a big part to me and what you just spoke to is this idea that a lot of us as entrepreneurs feel like there is something bigger beyond ourselves that we feel called to build and a message we feel called to share. And the best way, until augmented and holographic realities, become possible, that video is the best type of content to use for people to see and to hear your message. And if you're not using video, you are literally invisible to an audience who needs you.
Yes, not only are you invisible, but I've never done anything in my life for money. Never. Like I have to be passionate about it. And it really is one of the reasons why I named the company Inspired Living, because I'd come off a year of teaching NLP and quantum physics and platform and presentation skills in Hong Kong. And when I learned the power of our brain and really what we're capable of as human beings, like it really is amazing. I'm fascinated by it. And yet I'm also frustrated by the lack of people that reach the level of potential they want or they can based on human conditioning, fear, belief systems, all of those things. So, video is such a powerful tool. And yet, if you're not using it, not only are you invisible, but you're not monetizing your gifts. And how in the world can we contribute to society, make it a better place when we're broke? We can't, you know? So to me, inspired living is about like doing what you love, but also reciprocity, like earn a great living and then put it back into communities and causes that matter to you.
Yeah, definitely. How would you describe your vision with Inspired Living and what you're building currently with this amazing business?
Yeah, it's so funny that you asked me that because all I can hear is the Walt Disney quote that says it's bright and it's sparkly and it's out there. You know, it's I've never had like a 5-year business plan. You know, we project about a year or two ahead. Um, global domination. No, what I really see is
World
reaching
peace.
right world peace. My Miss America days, really helping as many people as humanly possible while I'm alive and hopefully well beyond. You know, I hope to create a self-led company that is so much bigger than me and that gives other people the megaphone and the visibility that they need to really make the impact that they're here to make. And it all sounds so cliche. Like I hear myself talking and I'm like, oh my gosh, Keri, like you're just a walking quote. But I feel so passionately about helping people get their message out there. Each and every one of us have such an amazing story. And if you're an entrepreneur, it is your story that sells, not your product or service. So if you're not selling your story, if you're not being the guide, not the hero in your own journey, helping other people see what's possible in their life, you're missing out on the whole point of doing what you're doing and really the impact that you are able to make in other people's lives. And you know what, Dallin? It starts with one. That's what I want to also go back to is that although my vision for this company is beauty brand and clothing and products and serving millions of people, like it's really big, I just have to remember each and every day to go out there and help one person. You know, get my message in front of one new person. Because when you think about the vision, whether you're a new entrepreneur or you're seasoned, it can feel like you're literally carrying a boulder up a hill. So it's just like, what is that next step? And I think when you start using video, you feel discouraged because it doesn't have the reach that you think it should or that you want it to have. And building a brand, using video, starting a podcast, it's a long term game, right? Building a brand is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So you have to be in it to win it. Like you need to like be consistent with your messaging, build emotional connection, build relationships, and then ask for the sale. And that takes time.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely takes time. You know, one thing that I find interesting too is that I've seen this shift. You know, I'm in a lot of business circles and I've seen this shift around the sprint versus the marathon with the traffic, right? Video is an essential part of your traffic generation, getting people to learn about you for the first time and inviting them to that next step as you grow that relationship. But there's two forms of traffic that I feel like, especially a lot of the online entrepreneurs and brands have doubled down over the last 6 years on Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads, and have gotten quick wins that way. And of course they still work, although the costs are continuing to increase. And then, you know, we'll continue to see evolution of the platforms that have enabled us, like Facebook and others.
Yeah.
How do you think, from a marathon perspective, how do you think video can be used that it is timeless and that you can continue to grow that strategy and that plan for yourself?
Yeah, this is such a great conversation, especially during these times where, for us, our company doubled in 2020 because we doubled down on Facebook ads. We showed up more consistently. We held our masterclass every 8 weeks. Like, I was like, I don't care if I can't do a live event again. I am showing up regardless. And you do get that, oh my gosh, that dopamine hit, that quick rush. But that was 10 years in the making.
Yeah.
I think that video is about positioning. Everything that you do in your business, let's face it, is about positioning. It's about creating authority, creating trust, building rapport with people. I actually just led a 2-day training, and one of the women came in, and I swear to God, it was like she was meeting Oprah. And I, and I was like, she was so excited to meet me. And I was so humbled and actually taken aback because she had been following me for so long and watching my videos for so long. And that really is the magic of social. Growing up, I had to audition to be on camera. I got told no a million times. And now we have no barrier to entry. Now, that's also the upside and the downside is that there's no barrier to entry. So, yes, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of content. People are in content confusion. And this is where your videos are a long term play because what people are searching for, hopefully, you solve a problem that isn't going away anytime soon, right? You help people step into a new realm of possibility. So when I'm Googling you, when I'm going on YouTube, when I'm doing those things, I don't care if your video is 10 years old. If it's great content, I'm going to go back and watch it. And by the way, I'm going to start following you. I will then purchase from you. See, here's the thing, the ads and the workshops and the master classes and the live events, if you've built a brand, it emphasizes the brand, right? People can go back and edify through your social and your videos and your content that you're the real deal because there's a lot of garbage being sold too. So I think that videos and your branding and the long-term play is positioning that will outweigh anything short-term that you do.
I love it. Well, and I think there's an element of perspective there, which to me is a key part of anyone's just personal journey and story
Yeah.
is this change in perspective that people need to realize that if you are doubling down on entrepreneurship, and especially, speaking to you, serial entrepreneurship, right? Those who are perpetual with it, that it is a long-term thing. One thing that actually stood out to me early on with what you're talking about is this idea too around inspired living. It's not the Keri brand, it's inspired living brand. And we
Yeah.
find that there's definitely a clear line that people draw around like, hey, I'm going to brand everything my name. And like, the Tony Robbins or Oprah Winfrey's of the world, right? Um, why do you think there's a benefit? Okay, let me add this other note too. Obviously, it's essential to build a personal brand, especially nowadays, for people to know and see you and to have that authority and trust built. But I guess describe why you chose to go with Inspired Living versus the Keri brand.
Oh my
What was
gosh,
that out
the
of?
bottles of wine over that decision, I tell you. It was so hard. I remember at the time I was coaching with Allie Brown. This is 10 years ago, right? And I'm coming up with this name and she's like, why isn't it on camera coaching with Keri?" And the thought of it, like that sounds horrible to me. That I always saw something that was bigger than me. And yet for my clients, most of them I tell them to build out your name. Honestly, like that's you. I
Yeah.
can't explain that decision. I just knew that inspired living. I have 10 coaches on my team. I always saw it at some point having products. I can't explain it. It was more intuitive. And I think that that's really important that when you're naming your business or you're thinking about what's next for you, like go in before you go out. There are so many decisions today. I bought a URL that cost me almost 6 grand. And I'm like, are you kidding me? But it was intuitive. Like I need this name because it goes with the trajectory of my brand. And even though I asked a million people, I had to really sit with it and be, is this the right decision for me? So I wish I could tell you. All I knew is that, I came off a lot of personal development. When Inspired Living launched, it was more of a life coaching company because I had come off training NLP. I was running all these trainings around the world. And my clients were all at the time global. I was working with people all over and I was doing a lot of life coaching. And so it was before I niched down. So inspired living was relationships and money and fitness and health. And because to me, that is inspired living. So it has grown and morphed greatly in the last 10 years. But I just knew at the time that that was right for me. And so I went with it. It was, I will say though, it's now Inspired Living by Keri Murphy. We have the Inspired Company. So it's still, I feel like we're 10 years in, and in some ways, like we're just getting our feet, which is exciting too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it keeps you in that startup and kind of honeymoon phase
Yeah.
of entrepreneurship, right? Where I find you observe a lot of entrepreneurs out there, and they get to a certain stage, you grow a business to a certain level, and they quickly kind of like, I'm complacent. What's my
Hmm.
next thing? What's my next project? And
I,
so,
I remember feeling that with other businesses as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a serial entrepreneur trap, maybe sometimes.
Usually it's like the 5-year honeymoon. And
Yeah.
this has been 10. So we're good. And I'll tell you, I still wake up and I'm excited really every day for what we're doing and what we're creating. And I will say it helps that I have the most amazing team on the planet. So yeah, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, amazing. So, Inspired Living, obviously, you are heavily involved and you are the face of that brand.
Yes.
So many brands out there, and this kind of leads me to the next question. There's so many brands out there that are not connected to any certain name or face.
Mhm.
It's kind of like if you divorced Steve Jobs from Apple back in the day,
Yeah.
that people hear it. What do you think? There's so many examples of brands that don't necessarily have that face, but yet can still be successful.
Mhm.
Do you think there's a make or break stage where all of a sudden someone needs to step into that spotlight and be seen as that authority and that visionary leader behind the company?
I think that when you look at market research, when you look at analytics, you look at statistics, all of those things, which we do often, people are more prone to buy from people than brands.
Yeah.
That's why you do see people like Sarah Blakely, and I mean, there's so many other amazing entrepreneurs out there that even though the name of their brand is something different, they are still the forefront and the name of the brand. Now, when that brand supersedes you, like Gucci, right? Tom Ford can step away and go do his own thing. But I'll tell you, Tom Ford left Gucci, and I bet a lot of people went with Tom Ford. So
Yeah.
I think you just have to know, what is the value proposition of your company? What is the core value that your company is built on? Because if you have a strong core value, then whoever's the face can continue to uphold those values and standards that that brand represents. At some point, Oprah is not going to be around anymore. Tony Robbins isn't going to be around anymore. What's the long-term legacy play for those brands? I'm actually really curious. I know Tony has a lot of other trainers, but this is just for you. I think it's such a great conversation and something to think about, is what is your end game? Do you want
Yeah.
the company to end when your life ends? Do you want to sell it? Do you want it to be self-led? Do you want to leave a legacy? Do you want your children to take it over? And those are questions I'm asking myself right now. I have two little ones. Like, what's the long-term play for Inspired Living? And I'll tell you, I take daily walks, and my thought is always, what would happen if I wasn't around? What would happen? What would happen to my company? What would happen to my children? And not in some sort of um, like morbid way, but from really a business standpoint of, hey, if I got sick or I got hit by a bus, like what would happen to what I've just spent my life building? And I think that's a really good question to ask yourself. I do think people are more inclined to buy from people.
Hmm.
I think more than ever, we seek human connection. And when you really look at the brands that are killing it, there's a name and a face behind it.
Yes. 100%. And oftentimes, speaking of those core values you mentioned, generations down the road, when that primary visionary leaves after the core values were long established, if they're not kept in alignment to the current leaders or employees of that company, that brand, people notice. And it's
Yes.
really like a public disgrace in a way, where people are like, oh, so and so would be rolling in their grave if they knew that was happening to their
Yeah, and we see
business.
that all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like a big guy comes and buys out a small guy,
Hmm.
or someone passes, or someone moves on and someone steps in. And then you're like, what the heck? I loved this company so much. And now the experience, or you can absolutely tell the values aren't being upheld. So, I think you can do your best to create that culture. Even if it's you and a VA, like you can create culture, you can create standards, you can create core values. And as you grow your team, as you bring up other leaders in your team, I have to say that's why I'm so in love with my team, because they all hold the core values of what we do. It's not just Keri holds inspired living. It's the company holds it, and we love our clients, and we love to help people get out there and get visible. And so yeah, it's a really interesting conversation. I wish we had hours to talk about it.
Yes, agreed. Well, and it's something I think a lot of us experience that friction, and it's like forests, above the trees, things like that,
Yeah.
where it does go back to me of this idea of being a visionary is knowing what your end play is with your business, especially as a visionary entrepreneur, knowing what you want out of it. Like if you could see yourself retirement age or late in life, who are you surrounded by? What type of business have you built? How are you spending your time? And some of those questions of a real tangible moment that you're like, hey, I have this freedom here. I have this freedom over here to do the things I want and to leave the legacy I want. And for people to align that to specific ideas and visions for themselves, then I feel like their business would be a lot more inspired and guided, and that they can step into that visionary role that many of us and many of those listening and watching definitely want to play.
Yeah, you know what? In this conversation, I'm feeling too that there's when you're starting your business and you know that it's like, oh my gosh, I have something really big that I want to share, and I have a message I want to get out there, and I need to be more visible. What I find so much, especially in that first like 3 to 5 years, is that you're so stuck in the minutia of the
Mm-hmm.
doing that you don't get to step into the being of the company and the being of those core values and just show up consistently. So, like usually, my greatest piece of advice is go out there and get help, like really learn to delegate early on. Look at your business as a CEO, even if you're just starting out. Like what decisions would a CEO make? Would she be doing all of these things? And in the beginning, we are all the things, right? We're the janitor, we're the bookkeeper, we're the, chief service officer, we're all things. But the sooner you learn to delegate and to really step into your genius. And I have a very good friend, her name's Sabrina Rising. She's an intuitive coach. And she's like, instead of thinking about what you need to do, think about how you want to feel. How do you want to feel every day? And this is your end play, and this is your play today. Like, how do you want to be feeling in your business? And when I'm not inspired, I got to double check myself and be like, what's going on? Where am I in resistance? What's happening that I need to take a deeper look at things. But for us, that have, gosh, the blessing to run our own businesses and to decide each day how we want to show up and who we want to be, taking time to understand these things that we're talking about today, I really think are foundational to any sort of growth, whether that's team, monetary, anything that we see. We all start a business for freedom, and yet most of us will never have it, just because we don't learn that just because you're committing to showing up on video once a week doesn't mean you have to go on camera every day. Like there's strategies, right? I do one production day a month. My team handles the rest. So there are strategies where you get to actually feel good in your business. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. What a powerful message to leave off on and to send people on their way to feel that element of inspiration, but also some getting started elements.
Yeah.
And speaking of getting started, how can someone get started with learning more about you and exploring what you have to offer?
I would say the best place is to come to inspiredliving.tv. We have a really amazing Be Studio Ready guide. People always ask me, like, Keri, what equipment do I need? How do I set up my home studio? Like, where do I start? So we put together this beautiful comprehensive guide. You can go get it right now. It's absolutely free. Tells you all the equipment, whether you're beginner or advanced, and some tips on setting up your home studio. And then please go DM me on Instagram right now at Inspired Living TV. Let me know you heard this interview. I would love to personally connect with you. I can give you my text number in our chat, and we can stay in touch, because relationships to me are really important.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for your time, Keri. It's amazing
Yeah.
to connect and to share more of your story to more and more people. So this is
Thank
great.
you. Really appreciate you having me.